Hello and welcome to the Vanessa Eriksson podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa, and I'm here to bring you meaningful conversations with leaders and influencers on data, AI, innovation, and leadership. Today's guest is Maria Hemberg. I'm thrilled to welcome her to the podcast. And you, all of you, thanks for tuning in. Welcome. Let's get this started. It's so lovely to have you here, Maria. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Shall we begin with you introducing yourself to our guest?
Yes, I can do. Yes, I am the former GC of Volvo Cars. I worked at Volvo for quite some years. I think it's 12 years. Prior to that, I was at SKF, so I spent a lot of time in the industry. And I'm a lawyer as a background, and now I am. I wouldn't say that I'm retired, but I do not have any operational role. And someone said the other day that you are probably getting the benefit out of all the overtime you have worked during your life. So I'm doing a bit of board work. I'm the chairman of a search and advisory firm called Adamson Partners. And I'm engaged in a number of associations focusing on promoting women because I think that is highly needed.
Yes, and I love that. As the founder of Girls at Technotics, we are cheering you on.
Yeah.
Maria, but you are seen as a Swedish legend in the legal and the corporate world. And that's why I think it is such an honor that I have you here on the Vanessa Eriksson podcast. Thank you. And you are that role model for women in leadership. But if we look at your law, what inspired you to study law?
I actually didn't at all want to study law. I wanted to be an interior designer.
Okay.
When my father told me that you have to find a profession where you can earn your living. And then I thought, okay, what should I do? He suggested that I would become a doctor, but as I can't stand seeing blood, that was not an option. And we had quite some family friends who were lawyers, and they seemed to very much enjoy their professional life. So I thought, let's give it a try. So I applied to law school, and it turned out that it was the right choice for me. And as I'm raised in a family very much focusing on business, the business law area was my kind of logic next step when I started to work. So that's the background.
Fantastic. Yes, amazing, right? Dads, bless them. But the choices, those early choices that you've made, how do you think that they have shaped the leader that you are today?
I think I made a very conscious decision very early on when I was at the law firm that I do not work with or support activities where I can't feel proud of what is accomplished. And integrity is very, very important to me. So always being able to look at myself and say, yes, I'm doing something good. That has been my guiding principle. So I think that has shaped me and my leadership to always stand up for what you believe is the right thing and not shy away from pointing out what isn't okay. And that goes beyond the law in itself. I think it's about how you interact with people, how you create a good culture, etc.
Coming back to that, being able to say when something is not right, I think that's really powerful for you, especially because we're living, as a Swedish person who the tendency is to avoid conflict. That is pretty brave. Did you ever feel like that?
I don't think I have looked upon it from that perspective, honestly. To me, it has been more my way of being. So I haven't put a label on it, but maybe I've been brave. I think it has helped my team wherever I have been, that I have always been very firm, and that when people have started to try to cut corners, etc., my door has always been open, and I always helped people in the business or in my team to find a way to get back on the right track.
Leadership today requires guiding organizations through disruptions, and you've had your fair share of that. How do you balance continuity and stability with the need for bold change?
There are, of course, a number of things to keep in mind, but I have always tried to convey the message to my team that change is something that is constant. Change is normal, and that is happening to everyone, every day. And if you can acknowledge that concept, it becomes easier to manage all the changes, all the transformation needs around you. So I think that is an important concept to base the leadership on. I also think that communication is extremely important, to be clear, set the direction to the team, and to help navigate all the uncertain things that pops up. That is also a skill which all leaders need to have in mind. I think those are critical.
And I think the communication part, that is for me at least so key, because especially today where there's this fear of AI taking over jobs, communicating that there will be newer jobs, or there will be other, whether it's reskilling, upskilling, there will be something else. Communicating that, I think, is so important, so you calm down your employees.
Yes. No, I totally agree, and also to acknowledge that in a transformation process, no one will have all the answers.
No.
And you have to navigate the unknown together.
True.
And really slice the elephant in pieces and take things step by step, and you learn things, you have to adjust. That way I think you create much more comfort.
Yes, absolutely.
And stability.
You've navigated the separation of Volvo from Ford. What lessons have you learned about leading organizations through big transitions that today's leaders facing digital or AI disruption should keep in mind? And I think it's quite similar to what you've just said. Is there anything more that you think, what you have learned from those?
I think it's important to acknowledge that people, in every big change, there is a loss of something. People will lose colleagues potentially. They may lose direction, which they have liked. So to acknowledge and embrace the fact that there are a lot of emotions is important. And you can't tell a person you are not allowed to feel, and often we forget the emotional aspect of what is going on. So to, not that you should change the company's direction or what needs to be done, but just to let people be who they are and feel what they feel will help them to actually take the step and move into whatever new direction. And also to encourage the organization and everyone to be open to new things and to learn, because if you are able and willing to constantly develop, you will always stay relevant.
True that, true. What were some of your challenges when you were building, compliance and governance at Volvo?
I think most legal and compliance professionals struggle to make sure that they become relevant. And when you try to accomplish a good setup, you have to find what's in it for the business.
Yeah.
And a compliance program will never be effective unless it's embedded in the way of working, embedded in the culture. Sure. And therefore you need to avoid becoming too technical and too much focusing on all the nitty-gritty parts. That's for the lawyers and the compliance experts to take care of. But to make people feel that, yes, I want to be part of a good company, I want to do the right thing. Yeah. That is, in my world, extremely important if you want to create something which is stable and, yeah, and sound.
Yeah. With today's rapid rise of data and AI, do you see similarities in the challenges leaders face when building trust and accountability?
Absolutely. And I think we talk about AI as that is something well defined.
Yeah.
And
yes.
and I don't think it is.
No.
I wouldn't even try to come up with a definition of what it is. To me, AI is providing new tools. And as with all tools, you have to find the right way of using them. Yeah. and adjust to what's new and take the good part of it. And yeah, of course you need to create a governance and a setup so you avoid the pitfalls and the risks. But I think that comes with everything.
True that. But you know, AI is moving faster than regulation.
Yes.
Yeah,
clearly.
It's a catch-up game here. And from your experience, what is the smartest way for leaders to balance innovation with responsibility?
I think if you try to see the holistic picture, if you start with where you are and try to figure out what you want to accomplish. You, yeah, set a frame which will help you to make sure that you don't get carried away by opportunities that you can't control or foresee, because this is so new. So yeah, if you lose the bigger picture, you may get lost in all the opportunities, and things may become risks. So to me, slicing the elephant in, yes, pieces, trying to figure out what is the best next step, and maybe that step will learn you that what you thought a couple of weeks ago is no longer relevant, and then you have to adjust. So being agile, I think, is very important.
True. But I think also what you say about, you know, I think having, you know, legal and the responsibility of the privacy in right from the start, yes, is key, and not bringing it towards the end when, you know, our project is done now, please invite, because please invite security or legal, or I think inviting the right teams from the start, so it is part of the product, it's part of your processes. I absolutely agree to that.
Yes, and I think, to me, it's not in any way different how you manage an AI-driven project compared to other projects. You, yeah, have to have all stakeholders with you. You have to assess things from all perspectives and, yeah, listen to everyone's view and come up with what is the right strategy.
Yes.
I see a trend that AI becomes something which the digital or the IT organization are supposed to handle, and the business owners and also the lawyers and the compliance, they are a little bit on the side.
Yeah.
And I think that is totally wrong. But that is not unique to an AI-related, no, matter. It's the same if you want to do an acquisition or a big industrial project. Get everyone into the same boat.
Yes. You've worked with IP and legal strategy across industries. How do you see the role of intellectual property evolving now that AI is creating data and ideas of its own?
Yeah, I think that is a tricky area.
Yeah.
Because the fact that there will be so many common and open AI tools where you can get things done with shortcuts, with aggregated data, etc. It blurs the picture. Who is the inventor of whatever innovation you create?
Yeah.
So to have a very good governance around what AI tools can the organization use, how should they be used, and in respect of what projects, because there may be things you want to develop totally independent of all those tools that are provided, so that you can patent, you can protect your innovation, because it will of course be much more cumbersome to do that if it is a blurry footprint.
Yeah, that's some great advice. Yes. But then you were also very involved in Volvo's sustainability initiatives. How do you see the relationship between sustainability, innovation, and AI shaping the future of corporate strategies?
To me, sustainability has to be very much embedded in the corporate strategy. It can't be handled on the side, it can't be handled standalone. And innovations, AI tools, all those elements are of course enablers supporting the company's strategy, including everything that needs to be done on the sustainability side. So to me, you have to continue to see the totality, not to do a piecemeal out of the elements. So my advice is always to the business: talk to the legal experts in the beginning, get the direction, then you can go off and do whatever you want, and then you check in on a regular basis, and that way you work as a team rather with someone who is seen as a police officer at the end saying stop.
But in your experience, over the years, is there any? How did you see the trend? Is it more you were welcomed right from the start, or is it let's wait to call Maria?
No, I think if you make sure that the organization see you as an enabler, someone who is supporting, they will come in the beginning. If you and you don't have to tell them all the details and all the problems. Those you can resolve yourself. So I always said to my team member, we need to market and promote the legal department in the same way as you promote a law firm. We are here to help.
Yes. I really love that, because I'm so happy. We were talking about Girls at Technodics, my NGO. We have PwC as on the board with us, but also as our auditors. And I love that, because you want to know, somebody is looking at our processes. Somebody is telling us if we're going astray, hey, this is not okay, come back here. So I also encourage all of you listening to this, involve legal and your compliance departments right from the start. But Maria, do you think that the boards today, you're on a lot of boards and you're the chairman also, are they moving fast enough to understand and govern the risk of AI and data? Or like regulation, are they also still playing catch up?
There are probably many boards doing exactly the right thing, but I have a fear that there are more in the catch-up game. And I think it goes back to what I said earlier about AI being such a vague phenomena, and it really starts with the management team and the board trying to understand what is this and how is it relevant for us. Because you can't have as a strategy to implement AI. You have to decide where does it make sense for us to focus on some of the new opportunities, which I think you should see them as. And I have often felt that there is a gap in many areas, not only in the AI area, between the board and the management team as to the starting point. And to a certain extent it should be like that. But in the AI area, I think the management team in every company need to figure out how can you use what the new technology is offering and bring that to the board. Otherwise, it will be a disaster.
Yes, absolutely. But I think also as an evangelist for responsible AI, I think that aspect also bring it to the board, because are we doing it, in the right way?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's move on to the human side and the leadership, the lead aspect of you. We tend to view AI and automation often through a tech lens, but they deeply affect the people and the culture, as we have talked about. From your leadership journey, how should organizations prepare for this shift?
I think it's important to try to figure out in which areas can this be used.
Yeah.
And unless you have your processes and your way of working in a good order, I struggle to see how you can create any efficiency. So bring all the people to really make sure that they can then help define where would we like to create automation opportunities, what would we avoid doing, and also what would we do with the time we free up this way.
Yes.
Because if you don't get the people with you, I think the transformation will be very difficult. And as many people are afraid of losing their jobs, not being relevant, I very much believe in defining what you want to get rid of, what you want to do more of, and how that can create value to the business. Because at the end of the day, it's all about creating value.
True.
No one is employed for his or her own sake. You are there to contribute to the company's progress and development. So AI isn't different from that perspective from any other transformation.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, Maria, but I think you still have, in any transformation, you also still have quite a number that are resistant. What would your advice be to those leaders, who have people like that in the organization really pushing back? I mean, yes, you can be open, you can. How do you, and I'm sure you've had that also throughout your career.
No, and I think you're right, and sometimes people have to make up their mind. Do they want to be part of the journey, or do they want to do something else?
Yeah.
And that is, of course, always difficult for a leader to get to the point where you actually need to take some action and communicate to someone that you should probably not be with us any longer.
Yeah.
But I believe that most people want to be part of the journey.
Yes.
And if you see their emotional side, you embrace that it's cumbersome, you help them to maintain integrity in what they feel, because that you can't take away.
No.
I think most people can be converted to be part, or to be eager to be part of the journey.
Yeah.
And the problem is when you try to be too broad and too bold. So make it tangible, so you see what is next step, and also celebrate what you accomplish, so you feel that, wow, we did something good.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I think that that was really good advice, because I hear companies going through this transition. They have employees that struggle with change. And I think that is a very good reflection. You know, do you really want to be part of this? Because maybe it's also sometimes there's fatigue, and maybe you want to do something different. We've all faced, you know, moments like that where maybe it's time for a change.
Yeah.
And we need to take time to figure out, so what's that change?
And I have always tried to make sure that all my team members, they have their individual development plans.
Yeah.
And those should contain a short-term and a long-term perspective. And we always discuss, do you enjoy what you are doing? And the moment you come to a point when you no longer enjoy what you are doing, maybe that is the trigger to do something else. And to me, it shouldn't be anything strange to come to such a point. Then it may take a while before you find a new job, which you should of course try to support the team member with.
True.
But to dare to move on, I think is something that you should encourage all your team members, instead of trying to protect that the team stays constant. In my world, it's very helpful for the energy in the group that there are some changes.
Yes, change is constant. That's what you said. Yes, and you've also led some complex transitions, global growth, and high-stakes boardroom decisions. What is the hardest decision you've had to make as a leader, and what did you learn from it?
I actually think it's close to what we just discussed, because when you come to a point where you realize that you have to tell a team member that he or she needs to do something else, that is tricky. And my experience is that you should take action sooner rather than later. Because it's good for the individual, it's good for the company not to make such a process too long. And in my early years, I tried to be too accommodating, too helpful. Now I realize that no, it's better to really make this process short, and most people I've asked to or encouraged to consider doing something else, they have actually thanked me afterwards, because it has become an opportunity for a fresh start for them. So lessons learned: do it quickly, do it with empathy and support, and it will end up being good for both the company and the individual.
Yeah, I can imagine that is the hardest. I have my own story to tell. The first time that I had to tell an employee to go, and he looked at me from across the table and he said, "It's okay, Vanessa, I've been on your side." That was one of the hardest decisions. As my final question, I want to talk about something that we're noticing in Sweden, and I know that you are very engaged. You are on the board of a company that is also promoting people.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we see a trend just now in Sweden where, you know, as you're hitting 50 or a little over 50, you're not so attractive any longer in the in the business world. What do you think? You know, how should we be changing that trend? And I mean, yes, it's ageism, but especially for Sweden, where we're looking at, you know, the retirement age going even further. We're going to have a generation of people just sitting still, idle, people that have solid knowledge, experience, and that can be put to use and add value to Sweden as a whole. How do you think, Maria, we should be changing that trend?
To a certain extent, I think this is a structural problem, because in very many companies you promote people to become leaders, they have very senior positions, and if and when a person is no longer willing or able to work 24/7, there is really no room for that person. And I think by really trying to create pools of competence among those people, you would have a very attractive experience hub, if you so may call it. So I think trying to find new structures within the organization is one aspect. That is obviously not the discrimination aspect, but it's more protecting the value of the knowledge you have within the company. When it comes to the struggle to find new jobs for people who are 50 plus or even 45 plus, I sometimes hear, it's probably also partly a structural thing, because we have a tendency to forget to see that people have even a broader ability to work and be valuable beyond the period or after the period when you have had small children, etc. Because there is no, you don't have to pick up kids at the nursery, etc. So much more flexibility, and that aspect I never hear anyone talking about. So perhaps in the same way as many companies says, you should always have at least one male and one female candidate. Perhaps you should also say, okay, you should have a candidate who is above a certain threshold, just to get a diverse base to pick from. I think it happens in many companies without any consideration. But as always, when you want to change something, you need to create some tools to make the change happen. So perhaps starting to see that as another aspect of diversity would help.
Absolutely. I think we need to start. But would you say it's HR, it's leadership? Where should this begin?
I think HR, as always, has a demanding role where they can pose questions. Why do you only have candidates age 35? Where are the people 50 plus? But also to give leaders the comfort that it's not a bad thing to hire someone who is actually more experienced and older than you as a leader. I remember when I was new at Volvo Cars, I was supposed to establish my compliance organization, and I hired a lady she was a former GC, so she could have had my role. She was 10 years older, much more experienced obviously than I was. And many people said, how can you hire someone who is that close to 60 and who is perhaps more competent than you are? And I felt that if I can attract a person with all that knowledge and competence, perfect. Because you should always strive to build the strongest team.
Yes, absolutely.
And so maybe we need to encourage the leaders to be a bit more bold and daring. I don't know. I've never seen age as an issue, and my problem is now when I'm 60 that I don't realize that people may look upon me as old. I still feel like I'm 40.
It's how you feel. It's all in the mind. It's all, I mean, it's all in the mind. It's just to keep going. I mean, at least if you have the energy and you want to, there's nothing that stops you.
No, and a team is always helped by diversity, and tons of experience brings diversity. It doesn't matter if you are a woman or a man or what your background is. The age distribution in itself provides a dimension.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maria. I've so enjoyed this. It's so many takes from here that I got to, I've learned myself, and I'm sure our audiences have as well. Thank you for your time and sharing your knowledge with us. And to all of you, thank you for watching, for listening. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do. And also a new one, please, would you leave us some feedback if you liked or didn't like? We'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.